Today, we are ranking every single Premier League manager that is going to be in the upcoming season. Let's get straight into it. Understand, lads? Here we go. Alright, so the first manager we're going to be ranking is Antonio Conte. The 5 categories they can go into is GOAT, insane, decent, needs major improvement, or sack him right away. These are my predictions of how well they'll do and what I know based from last season, and this is just me ranking how good they are in my opinion. Alright, so Antonio Conte is really good. We know he's done great with Chelsea, won them the league. He's doing really good with Tottenham, getting them qualified Champions League after not being in it for a while, and he's made some really good purchases in the summer transfer window. So I think that's going to be huge for him and Tottenham, especially since it's like the most signings they've gotten this year in the past decade. So I think that he's really doing well at the club and helping them thrive, and I think he's really passionate about lifting Tottenham's success rate, just because you can tell the passion he has in each game. And I think he's really good, but he's just a sliver off of being one of the greats in the Premier League. So I'm just going to put him in insane for now, and he might get bumped up to GOAT by the end of the season. Next up is Brendan Rodgers. He is a very good manager, but with the past few seasons with Leicester, hasn't done too great. And he was never anything amazing at Liverpool, but he's done really well with Leicester in the past years. But recently, he's kind of been going downhill. And I feel like if they continue the form of last season, they might need to sack him just for their own good, because he might be really messing up Leicester, and they need somebody who can just get them at least Europa League or contend, and he did not do that last season. So I'm going to put him in the front of decent, almost too insane, but probably needs some more consistency. Next is Bruno Lage, the Wolves manager. This is the easiest one here, I think. Needs major improvement. If Wolves don't get some good signings, or get rid of their manager, or change something, they're getting relegated or going to fight for relegation, because they are not looking good for the next season. And I don't think they should sack him. I'd like to give Bruno Lage a chance, because he did do decent last season, but he's gonna really need to up his game for this next season. The season's gonna be more tricky, more tough. I don't know. I just think he really is gonna need improvement to help the squad and himself succeed more at Wolves. Alright, next up is Roy Hodgson. I am going to put him up there with Antonio Conte. I think he's on the same level. He's really good. Not as close to that greatest of all time position as Antonio Conte, but still really high up there. He's a really good player. Deserves a lot of credit. What he's doing with West Ham is amazing. And if he gets a few good transfers, I think they could qualify for Europa League. I doubt Champions League just because of how tight it is at the top, but I could see them getting Europa League. Eddie Howe, the man, the myth, the legend. He has to be an insane, with just considering his career, with what he's done with Bournemouth, bringing them for the lowest division in all the English leagues, and what he's done with Newcastle being the only team to ever survive relegation after being in 20th at Christmas. So he is really just a miracle worker. He's so good at managing. He's very quiet, but his brain's just insane. He's such a good manager. After I add a little more managers in the insane category, he might have to be moved back a bit, because he's not up to the level as like Antonio Conte, but I feel like he could eventually, maybe if he moves to a bigger club, but he's just so good, and I feel like he's a very underrated coach. Next up is Ten Hag, the new Man United manager. I don't know much about him. He looks pretty good. I know he's the manager of Ajax, and from what I've heard about him in training and stuff like that, I think he looks pretty good, but purely because I don't know much about him, I'm going to put him in decent. because I don't think Man U will do that good, but I think they'll do pretty decent. But I just don't know much about him, but he looks like a really good manager that can easily make the insane spot if he proves himself in this upcoming season. Frankie L. Frank Lampard. He's a tough one. I think he's in between. I think he needs a little improvement. I don't think he needs major, and he is pretty decent. But just to help those Everton fans out and not make them feel like crap, I'll put him in decent. Just because he's a good manager. He did good with Derby, not great with Chelsea, but that was a big job. And I think he's doing pretty good with Everton. They still did almost get relegated after having him be the manager, so he can't be that good. But I think he's a decent manager, and I definitely could see him helping Everton avoid that relegation in his next season. He's making some smart signings. I think a lot of young players want to come to play for a legend, so I think that's really smart. And I just think he's a good manager in general, and could go in needs improvement or decent, but I'm gonna throw him in decent for now. The Brighton manager, he is really good. He's really good. He's very, very underrated. I think he deserves a lot more credit, but this is also a tricky one. I think he's in between insane and decent, but I think I'm gonna put him at the top of decent, I think. Cause nah, I'm just putting him ahead of Frank Lampard because he is a very good manager. Done very well with Brighton over the years, and he can just really help them out. Like, he's just a great manager overall. He's smart with the players he signs, and I think he really proved himself, especially at the beginning of this Premier League season, to why he's a good manager. But they started to slow down at the end, so I'm just going to put him in decent. But if he keeps that form up throughout the whole season, he could easily make the insane tier, maybe after the season's done. But for now, I'll keep him in decent. Not as good as Ten Hag and Brendan Rodgers, but one of the top three, I think. Next up is Jesse Marsch, the Leeds manager. I don't know a lot about him. I know he's a U.S. manager, and I think he's gonna need major improvement because if Leeds don't get a signing, I'm sorry to say it, but I think they're gonna be relegated, especially with Rafinha and Calvin Phillips gone. Like, I don't know. He's gonna need a lot. Now, I think I'm gonna put him ahead of Bruno Lage because I think they're gonna need even more than what Wolves need. It's just there's so much, and he's only buying in U.S. players, and you know those players are no good, so that might put them in some trouble. But I don't know. I don't know what to say about this one. He just needs a lot of help because Leeds are definitely going to get relegated if he doesn't do something soon. Your boy, Jurgen Klopp. He's obviously making the GOAT tier. First one to make it. Everyone knows he's one of the best managers to ever coach a team in the Premier League. He's just so good, so smart with his transfers and his formations and everything. And he's just so good at turning players into monsters. And he deserves so much credit. And I feel like he's known for being one of the best, but I feel like he's a little underrated because nobody talks about him as like the best manager in the world, which I think he definitely is. And I think people only say that about like whoever manages the team that wins the Champions League final, which sometimes can be true, but not all the time. And Jurgen Klopp is just so good. Next up is Silva, the Fulham manager, Marco Silva. He looked pretty good in the championship. I watched a bunch of championship games. He looked decent, but I could definitely see Fulham going back down. Same thing with Nottingham Forest. I feel like they don't have much of a chance, but I feel confident. I think he did well at Everton. I think he's a decent manager. He does well. He did well at Fulham. Really smart the way he used Wilson and Mitrovic. So I'm gonna put him at the end of decent. like no matter who else I add in there, just because I don't know what to expect from him. But I think he's gonna need similar to Frank Lampard. He's gonna need some improvement to make sure they stay in the league. But I'm gonna put him in decent for now because he's a pretty good manager from what I've seen with him on Everton and the way he coaches Fulham. He's just a very impressive manager that I think will do well in the Premier League. Hopefully stay up. Alright, the next one is Mikel Arteta. This guy's just evil. Like, how are you supposed to know where to put him? He goes from being like the worst manager ever to like the best, and then the worst. I don't even know if this guy's any good. I don't know where to put him, but I think I'm gonna put him at the front of decent, because I think he's almost to the insane, but the thing that all the insane managers have in common is being consistent, which he isn't. But when he's doing really good, he's in the insane position, but he's not there a lot. So I'm gonna put him at the top of decent, close to being insane with Antonio Conte, and I think Gabriel Jesus and Saka and Martinelli are going to help carry him to that insane spot by the end of the season probably, and possibly even make Champions League over Chelsea or Tottenham. But he's just a good manager overall. Assistant manager of Pep, just really good. He started off pretty rough with Arsenal. I'm surprised he didn't get sacked during that time, but turned out to be alright. He's a decent manager. I think they'll probably keep him for most of the season unless he starts doing really bad. Vieira, he's a very underrated manager. I think he's one of the most underrated in the Premier League right now. This might come up to a big shock for you guys, but I'm putting him in insane category just because I think he's really good. He really proved himself at Crystal Palace. He's just doing so well with them. I know they didn't do that well, but I think his managing has been really well, and I think similar to Frank Lampard, getting those, being like a legend, the players want to join you and stuff. So I feel like he's similar to Mikel Arteta. I mean, you could put, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna do that, because I don't think Vieira should be ahead of Arteta, honestly. So I'm not gonna put him in insane. I'm gonna put him behind Arteta in decent, but I think it's the same scenario as Arteta, just not enough. Pepe? Who's Pepe? Pep Guardiola. He's obviously up there with the big boys. Jurgen Klopp. I think he's just a really good manager. He knows what he's doing. All of his formations and strategies and passing is really well done through the team, and I just think he's a good manager overall. The only thing is that he just buys his success, and and that's why I think Jurgen Klopp's a better manager, considering they build these nobodies into like outstanding players when only paying for them for like 10 million, whereas Pep Guardiola just buys any good player for like 80 million. And I just think that's why Jurgen Klopp's a better man, because he's better at turning players good, and I think Pep Guardiola is better at managing a team in general, if that makes any sense. Is Ralph Hasenhüttl. He's going to be our first. Sack him right away. Just get rid of him. I'm surprised he's still there. Southampton are going down if they don't get rid of him soon or get a really big transfer, because he's not that good, and he's just really gone downhill with Southampton, and I think they need to sack him very soon, or they could be in a dangerous position. He's not who he used to be, and he's just very inconsistent and not a good manager overall. Next is your boy Scotty P. Woo! He's very tricky because he's a good manager in general, I would say. Did very well in the championship. But he is known for having a bad record in the Premier League. So I'm going to put him in front of Silva in the decent, just because I think he'll do better than Fulham, but I still think he needs some improvement. I think he's in between the decent and needs major improvement. I don't think he needs major, just a little bit to make sure it keeps them up. But I think he's a good manager overall. Next up is the Nottingham Forest manager. I do not know much about him, but he helped them escape from championship relegation to get them promoted. So he's pretty good. But I think I'm going to put him at the top of needs major improvement because he's almost at the decent spot. But I just think Nottingham Forest are going to need a lot of improvement to their squad with just all their... They don't have much in their team that is really good. Like, you have... Bournemouth have Solanke and, like, Brooks that can really help carry them. Fulham have Wilson and Mitrovic, but Nottingham Forest just doesn't really have somebody like that. Maybe Johnson, but I think they just need to build their squad a bit better. And I think he's going to need some improvement to help them stay up, because I really don't think they will. Is Stevie G, the Liverpool legend. He's very, very good. He's not an amazing manager, but he's very good and deserves a lot of credit. Did great with Rangers. He's doing decent with Aston Villa. Nothing like special, but still doing really good. Made some good transfers over the January window. So I'm going to put him just ahead of Brendan Rodgers in the decent section. So super close with Vieira to almost being insane, but I just think I need to see him more and see how well Aston Villa does in this upcoming seasons. Next up is Thomas Frank. I think he's a really good manager. Brentford started off the season really well, but really went downhill. And now that Eriksen's gone, I could definitely see them fighting for relegation. So I think he's going to need some improvement. Not major improvement, but I think he's going to go behind Ten Hag in this order. He's a good manager, but he's going to need a lot of improvement, I think. Thomas Tuchel, last and final manager we are ranking. I'm putting him insane, ahead of Eddie Howe. He's such a good manager. He just always does well with Chelsea, making alright transfers. I mean, he did get Werner and Lukaku, which were duds, but you can't blame him for that. Still a really good team he's building, doing really well with them. And buying Sterling was huge for them, and I think that was very smart for them to pick up. And yeah, I think he deserves that spot. I had a lot of managers in decent. Just let me know what you guys, which managers you'd switch around down in the comments below. This is my personal ranking. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Slow motion, Sue? Question mark? See ya.